years, I've been approached by both the Republicans as well as the Democrats to run. I consistently said no. I've always been an independent. That's part of that comes from my broadcasting background, where if I was going to do something on broadcasting or as an investigative journalist, at least when I did that, is that not being perceived as partisan one way or another was always part of your DNA. You couldn't have two people more different than the incumbent, Mike Domenico, and myself. We have very different personalities. I'll give you an example. My job is to present ideas and listen to everybody else and then see if we can move in some form or direction where people will turn and say, is that, okay, I understand ultimately what the decision will be. Mike's approach is very different. It's very loud, uh, loud to the point where he screams a lot, and that's his style. It's my way or the highway. I don't think that that's helpful for the township. I'm not partisan. I've never have been politically partisan. That goes back to this sense of being an independent. I was a registered independent. I truly believe that we have to take a look at how decisions are made in the township. We have to find ways to make substantive decisions expeditiously. At the end of the day, what I'd like to do is there's a series of changes. One, uh, Mike does not promote and he doesn't advocate the involvement of the public. I'm the opposite. Um, I truly believe in citizen participation. It's to me core to democracy. But I look at what other townships are doing, and I see best practices. I look at East Goshen, for example, where they have set up task forces, really with the involvement of the citizens, looking at specific issues, and then acting as an advisory committee, if you will, to the board to allow the board to come to whatever decisions they're going to make on those given subject matters. We don't do that. If somebody were to ask me as to what's my experience, I've been the chairman of the Westtown Planning Commission for 5 years. When we moved to Westtown, it was because my wife and I looked at it and said, we wanted a place that would be always retain kind of the ruralish atmosphere or environment. What is it about Westtown Township, which I really adore? Obviously, actually, I wouldn't be running if I didn't love our township. At the end of the day, I want to make it better. And I think that that's ultimately what you, as any type of political candidate, that's what you really want to do, to make whatever it is, to be able to say when you're finished, at the end of your term, you can look back and say, is that this place is better off for me having done what I did. In my non-planning commission work, as well as my planning commission work, I've seen basically a full breadth of issues and concerns relating to everything from land conservation, which is a disturbance for me. That's a concern. Is we have no conservation fund. We have there's no strategy for it. I find that mind-boggling in this day and age. You go to almost any other municipality, they're well beyond. I mean, they've thought this through and they've put aside a fund to be able to preserve land. That has not been the philosophy of Westtown Township. At the end of the day, the reason I think that our township has not created a land development fund or a conservation fund is purely philosophy, and it's a philosophy that I don't understand. I find it incomprehensible. We don't want to take away your land. We give you all the rights. You do whatever you want. But at the end of the day, is that we want to make sure that we can preserve open space. Our township just simply hasn't done that. I was at one board meeting. This is a number of years ago. I wasn't the chair of the planning commission, and I just got up and asked that as a question. He turned around and he said, "We don't believe in that. That's socialism." If you start from the premise that every decision made by somebody on the supervisor is based on dogma, political dogma, then you understand why people are against land conservation. If you start from a different premise, which is that take a look at the issue and actually study the issue, look at the benefits of whatever we're studying. In this case, it'd be land conservation. Then you come to a completely different conclusion. A planning commission can only advise. We don't decide this. And when you are only the advisor, and then you see what's come out of the supervisors at times, um, I guess at this point I'd like to be in the decision-making mode, and that's the reason I'm running. It goes back to leadership. Mike and I just have very different approaches. He starts with a philosophy. His philosophy is uh, less government, less citizen participation, Um, and his persona is such as that, um, I'd put it this way, I think that he thinks that the louder you speak, um, the more effective you are. I'm the opposite. Uh, you can't develop a consensus among your colleagues, whether you're a supervisor, a planning commission chairman, or in regular life, by yelling and screaming. Over the years that I've lived in Westtown Township, it almost seems, no matter who sits on the board and who composes the three-member board, is they view resident involvement and resident interest almost as an obstacle to decision making. That's something that I don't understand and totally disagree with. Our township, our municipality, our board doesn't have a mission statement. I find it remarkable. Somebody might say, well, it's a very small point. As far as I'm concerned, it's not. You walk into any other municipality and you'll ask where their mission statement is, that they'll say, here it is. There isn't a developer or a lawyer or a consultant who would turn to you and say um, that I have not been fair. Um, but at the same time, they would tell you that um, I'm strong. And you can be strong without being offensive. And I think that's a major difference between Mike DiDomenico and myself. I think our township is one of the few, if any, that do not have and don't tape or record their meetings. You can't say today, um, logically, that will be too expensive to do so. Just look at the setup that we have here. Look at the setup that go to any township today. Small townships, large townships, they record their proceedings, not just with the board, but with the various commissions, etc. Frankly, what that does is that it encourages people to find out more about the township, to find out what the issues are, to find out how their supervisors think and discuss, etc. When you don't record it publicly, whether it's to be a live recording on a streaming basis or whether it's for archival purposes, um, at the end of the day is that you're keeping your township citizens and residents in the dark. And that's the difference, I guess, between DiDomenico and myself in a very big way.